like Stephen A. always says, just wait. Something bad always happens.
No, don't start that. Don't start
Let me
that.
tell you.
Don't
No,
do that.
hold on. First of all, I wouldn't do that right now. In all seriousness, RC,
Yeah.
this is a season.
Hey,
ending.
what's up, YouTube, man? It's your boy, Ashton Jackson. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the Bart Scott situation, about what happened on ESPN this morning. You guys already know that from who you guys have been following me for a while. I already know that I don't really speak on situations like this. And then also, I'm going to be talking about how the Dallas Cowboys could also potentially get better at the cornerback position. If things doesn't pan out well in the quarterback room, which I think it will, but then also I kind of think about things like an organization where it might not be a problem in the regular season, but it could potentially cost us in the playoffs. And that's one less thing I don't want to worry about come playoff time. So before we hop into the video, I'd appreciate if you guys would like the video, subscribe if you're new, comment, and share my video with anyone who you think will enjoy my content, man. So again, for the people who have been following me for a little while, know that I don't talk about uh, you know, any social media takes that are given about people who don't really know football that well, or people or TV personalities who go on TV and they make a lot of money and they spew a lot of nonsense on ESPN and a lot of the 3-letter, 4-letter networks. I will never really talk about the outlandish things that they talk about. Like, for example, they talk about how Dak Prescott is a trash quarterback and everything like that. And they always like to trash the Cowboys, right? I don't really care that they trash the Cowboys. If we don't do well, I expect them to do that and things of that nature. They like to trash Dak Prescott a lot. And, and I never try to go on here and try to defend Dak Prescott because I already know where I stand with Dak Prescott. And that's my quarterback. I love him. I know where he's going to go, and I know what he will do and how far he will take us when the opportunity presents itself. So, and we also know that there's a lot of key cogs that takes us into going to the next level, playing in February, late January every year. It's not solely on Dak Prescott. There's a lot of different things that goes into it. Anyone that has been watching the game for a very long time knows it's more than just a quarterback position that needs to excel for us to go play in those situations, right? So, but BS like this that happened with Bart Scott today, I had to speak on, only because when you see a lot of BS in this world, which a lot of people don't tend to speak upon, but especially something like this, when someone's making fun of an injury, that's what you would expect from a guy on Twitter whose username is Dallas Cowboy Hater 58 22 28 1980 whatever, right? All those weird numbers that they have at their name, and they don't have a profile picture. That's what you expect from a guy who never played the sport at a high level, doesn't understand football at a high level, etc. Right? That's what you expect from a troll, from a guy who's never played the position. But you don't expect what Bart Scott had said at a professional level, not only on TV, but for him to be a former player and for him to be in the NFL where you're signing yourself up for a consistent car crash every single Sunday. And then for you to come out and say, use Stephen A's line about how, the Dallas Cowboys will always be the Dallas Cowboys. But Stephen A says that line in terms of when we're losing football games, they get injured, whatever the case might be, that ends up bad happening to a player or a person. He will never say, oh, and he was a former Dallas Cowboy. He'll never be like, oh, that's what Dallas Cowboy players normally do, or Dallas Cowboys, something bad would always happen. What was funny was that nothing about this situation was funny. It was just about how Bart Scott he said what he had said. Then he was trying to backtrack from it. There's a rapper out there, G Herbo, right? He has a song, called Statement, that is like, he starts it out by saying, always mean what you say. So Bart Scott, mean what you say. Don't get called out for it, because what was funny was that he said what he had said, smirked, and then Ryan Clark picked up on it first because I'm pretty sure his earpiece was a little bit better than Stephen A's. He picked up quickly and was like, Ryan Clark was like, hey, man, we're not going to be doing that. And then Stephen A had to say, yeah, we're not doing that. That what you just had said was taken out of context, because when I say that, that's about how they perform on the field, not about a player's health and concern and everything like that, right? So he gets called out for that. And then Bart Scott gets called out by a top 3 NFL player in this league with Michael Parsons. Michael Parsons, as well as a teammate of Trayvon Diggs, was well within his right to say what he had said to Bart Scott, calling him, an old head, you're jealous, bitter old man. And it's kind of weird that you're, paraphrasing what he had said, that you're a former player. Then he had to say that about a player. That's very corny and that's lame. And then I put the tweet up right now. Then Bart Scott really basically replies saying that, I've been called a lot of different things in my life, but I've never been called lame. And, what I said was out of context. But again, it wasn't taken out of context because you knew exactly what the quote that it was, and that you was expecting a comedic response from what you had said and thought everyone was going to be. You really thought that shit was funny? Well, it was kind of like that was lame. You thought that you said something slick and that you thought everyone was going to laugh in that situation. That's crazy to me that you really thought you was going to get a comedic response. But then not only did he defend himself, he tried to defend himself and then end up tagging the wrong Michael Parsons. So he was such in a hurry to defend himself that he didn't even at Michael Parsons at his right username on Twitter. How can you not interpret the blue check mark that it is for an NFL player? It's just crazy that with this entire thing that had transpired, and then not only Michael Parsons said something, his brother he said something, which that's a great brother right there for you to say something when somebody clowns upon your brother. I know he couldn't have given that dude any sort of light, but the fact that he did and called him out for it, I respect that. And all the other players on the team, Jay Ron, Malik Hooker, and anyone else that I am missing that is on the Dallas Cowboys right now playing and called out Bart Scott. I commend you for it because that is some clown, childish behavior right there for him to make fun of an injury, smirk, expect a reaction, gets called out for it, and tries to defend himself, and then backtracks what he says. So that's about it from the situation. I'm not really going to talk about any other situation when it comes down to this national media, but I had to call it out because that was some BS, right? Moving into the second part of the video, and that is speaking about the Dallas Cowboys and how they can potentially get better at the cornerback position, right? I normally, I swear to you guys, I was thinking about making this video down the line towards around Halloween, the beginning of November, because that's when normally the trade deadline happens, and that's when Dallas Cowboys have their first bye week. Will be week 7 after the LA Chargers, and by week 7, I'm predicting that Dallas Cowboys will either be 6-0 or 5-1 by the time our trade deadline happens, which I think is very attainable because I think we're going to smash the Cardinals, especially, a lot of people saying that our defense is going to fall to the wayside without Trayvon Diggs, and then you're automatically dismissing Deron Bland and everything like that. Now, I know I'm not going to sound, talking outside of my neck saying, I don't, people aren't saying they don't believe in them. Now I'm talking about replacing them. I'm not saying to replace these guys with these corners that I have listed right here, but that I think that, cornerback position may not be a problem right now. It might not be a problem the first go around against San Fran, the first go around against Seattle, Philly when you have to play them 2 times, Washington when you have to play them 2 times, New York when you play them 2 times. But it's going to be different when you're playing them 3 times, when you got to see Philly possibly for the 3rd time, San Fran for the 2nd time, Seattle for the 2nd time, Detroit for the 2nd time. When you go in the playoffs, that you don't want that cornerback position to be a problem. So it's listed right here on the screen, and CJ Henderson and both Christian Fulton fall into the same basket of that Trey Lance situation. You know how in the summer we traded for, or just really in August last month when we traded for Trey Lance, he didn't live up to the expectation. He was on the trade block, and the Dallas Cowboys were able to give a 4th round pick for him. That's what I think we can get out of CJ Henderson and both Christian Fulton. I really would like from this list, I am intrigued in Shaquille Griffin and CJ Henderson. And the reason why I'm talking about CJ Henderson is because before I had done a video talking about him on this channel a while ago, early in 2021, when I still was talking about how the Dallas Cowboys could have improved their roster and how I was already then talking about how we could have improved cornerback 2 and just how our defense was looking promising because of all the young pieces that we have and that we still have on this team, right? But C.D. Henderson intrigues me second most to Shaquille Griffin, but I'm going to talk about C.D. Henderson, 10th round pick, or not, my bad, a first round 10th overall pick in the 2020 draft. C.D. Lamb, Chase Young, Joe Burrow draft, and he was selected 10th overall by the Jacksonville Jaguars in hopes that the Jaguars were thinking that he was going to become the next Jalen Ramsey and was going to be able to take over that defense and be that lockdown corner for that team. I just think again he went to a wrong organization who didn't have a plan for him, which you have to have a lot of plan in place for all of these guys that enter in your organization and your facilities to try to get the best out of them. Right? If your coach can't get the best out of you, you want that coach to be gone. Jacksonville didn't get the best out of him. I forgot who their head coach was in 2020. I know in 21 that Urban Meyer, which CJ Henderson was still there. Urban Meyer didn't like Henderson, so they ended up trading Carolina Panthers for like a 4th or a 5th round pick, I believe it was, with conditions. Things didn't pan out right there for him in Jacksonville, went to Carolina. And then one of his low light moments came against the Buccaneers last year, last game of the season when the my bad, second to last game of the season. Bay Buccaneers found it upon themselves that they finally wanted to make the playoffs, and they finally saw that they could make the playoffs. They're like, okay, let's just throw at Mike Evans, who was guarded by CJ Henderson. And that's when Mike Evans had that historical performance of 11 catches, 257 yards, and I believe 2 touchdowns. He just went absolutely bonkers on that end. But I think if CJ Henderson comes in, he's 6'1". His player comp coming out of the draft was Byron Jones, very athletic, top corner, nice speed, great length, and could potentially be a player in the NFL. Just didn't pan out. I think that he can come to the Dallas Cowboys with his length, and he'll be able to come out and not start, but be another depth piece. Because now, since Trayvon Diggs got hurt, we have to now reach into that bag of our depth, right? Thank God that's why we still have Jordan Lewis. Now you got Deron Bland play on the outside, which is the plan, and then Stephon Gilmore, of course. Still, the reason why I like Shaquille Griffin is because drafted by Seattle, did really well, went to Jacksonville, now is in Houston, has 6 career picks. Again, another lengthy corner on the outside that can fit in this Dan Quinn system. Veteran, so he's been around, he's been in the NFL for a little while, so he's not going to get caught off guard off of anything that happens. Christian Fulton's another young guy. Again, I already talked about him and CJ Henderson both going to the same basket. Both very young guys. I think that if they go into different situations, they can be a lot better. Jalen Mills, he's solid as a cornerback 2 or 3, but that's not somebody I really want to pursue, in my opinion. Of course, if he comes here and he does well, I won't be mad. I've seen other people talk about Anthony Brown. I'm really on Anthony Brown only because he tore his Achilles, and I don't want to talk down upon Anthony Brown because he formerly used to play for us, and he wasn't that great of a player, but he was solid enough for us. He had a career year in 2021. And in 2022, although he wasn't great when he tore his Achilles in December, 4th of 2022, our DB room had taken some steps down, and anybody that we had in place of Anthony Brown got torched until we finally decided to move Deron Bland to the outside. So I'm thinking of a guy who isn't necessarily on here, but it's up to the Chicago Bears. We understand that we are playing in the times where a lot of NFL offenses are moving into a trio set of receivers where they want 3 good receivers that can all win on the outside, win on the inside, etc. Right? That can win their matchups consistently against corners, against teams that don't have 3 good corners, right? What do the Chicago Bears do, right? I haven't heard a lot from Jalen Johnson, which is a good thing because if you're not hearing a lot from a corner, you know that they're doing something pretty well in the NFL, right? So I would like to pick up Jalen Johnson. He's a very young corner. He popped out his rookie year. Was in the running for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Had a really solid year last year. They did draft Kyler Gordon. They did draft Tyreek Stevenson. So now they're 3 or 4 deep at that cornerback position with a lot of different young guys. What does a trade package potentially look like to go get a Jalen Johnson? Do we potentially have to give up a day 2 pick? I'm fine with that. I'm fine with giving up a 2nd round or a 3rd round pick. And the reason why I'm even talking about trade candidates anyway is because the Dallas Cowboys have finally showed in the offseason that they're okay with giving up draft capital to get better at a certain position. Example, Stephon Gilmore, Brandon Cooks, they have never done that years prior to better their football team underneath the Stephen Jones regime. So Jalen Johnson, for me, very young guy, very great on the outside. It could be a guy that, we can possibly give up a 3rd round pick, bring him in, a rental possibly, or he balls out to a point to where you can sign him. Because again, you're not going to have Stephon Gilmore for another 10 years, but you can have Jalen Johnson for another 10 years. So if you bring in Jalen Johnson, he pans out, you give up a 3rd round pick, he pans out into a guy that you can give solid money to, nothing that he's going to break the bank. Now it's another guy that you can add to this defense, and you can keep adding on to this defense. Or also, if C.J. Henderson can pan out by giving up a lower draft capital pick, maybe like a 2025 fourth round pick, you can get C.J. Henderson for that. He balls out, same ordeal. You can give him a nice little contract that's on the lower end because his production hasn't been that great coming in his first couple years in the NFL. He comes in, he balls out, right? So that's about it for the video. Of course, we called out Bart Scott and all his nonsense, and then we talked about how we could potentially get better at the cornerback position. So that's about it for the video. Hope you guys have a nice day. Stay safe, stay blessed. Bye.